Morning, everybody. 8:10 a.m. January 7th. Welcome to my channel. Now, yesterday, we broke the downtrend in the Nasdaq, in the QQQ. S&P 500 made new all-time highs. New all-time highs. Yesterday was pretty interesting too. Reason being was Nvidia was down. AMD was down. Apple was down. Tesla was down. Google was down. Pretty crazy, right? Netflix down. Now, but we still moved up. Okay. That was because I heard earlier that a lot of tech was still bullish. I think after CES or something with memory and certain other things getting boosts, right? Even semiconductors yesterday was still strong, even with the heavyweights being down. Even Broadcom finished unchanged from the previous day. But the NASDAQ 100 was still decently strong, along with XLK, which was really interesting. To have some of those heavyweights not have a great day, and the market moved pretty decently. Okay. Now, actually, Microsoft had a nice little reversal yesterday. Okay. So, that brings us to today. Now, also, the metals, silver surged yesterday. This time I was ready. I trimmed my position again. I got my entry, I think, is $25 a share in silver. So an SLV ETF. So yesterday I trimmed again. I was like, all right, we're moving up here. And if you don't know yet, I believe I want to say the CME. I could be wrong about that. Is raging margin requirements. And every time I've heard about this from a guy I respect. He says usually when silver gets too high, that's what happens. They start raising margin requirements, until it actually affects the price. And I guess it gets too expensive to trade it or whatever, and the silver usually retraces because the government doesn't really want, or people don't want silver to get out of control. Okay, it's been highly manipulated in the past to have silver. If you look at a history of silver, it kind of bounces around the 18, 19, 17 price. That's why I'm trimming my position again. All right. I think now my cost basis is free for what I have, what I bought it for. So that's pretty good. I like trimming now. I used to be like, oh, I have such a great entry. But now, those paper profits become real profits because now I'm trimming. So that's enough about that. All right, let's just get right into it today. Got stuff to talk about. Had a nice long yesterday. Maybe we'll get into that. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets, along supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. Also use anchor view ups. Market internals, boy, that's my bread and butter. Now I'm not sure if my boy's in here. Documents, MPH, Bond, Leo. Not sure if he's listening yet. But there was a time yesterday when the market was selling off a little bit. A little bit. Didn't break the lows or the open or anything like that. And I was like, oh, these internals are not weak. These internals are not weak. We are going to get a bounce. And I want to be long. Okay? That's the beauty of the internals. And I'll show that to you later. Okay? Now, my framework of execution now has switched over to basically an ICT smart money concept kind of thing. And it's only really my framework to enter now. Okay? And I don't know if I said this the other day, but I've back tested this for hours and hours and hours and hours over the break, over the last. Anytime I had a free break, I would just continue to back test this kind of framework, which gave me confidence. And then every day that I've seen the same thing over and over again, it gave me confidence. And I'm not gonna lie, this repeats every day. So this has just built confidence, man. The reason why I took that long yesterday. In the previous 2 days, there should have been longs as well from me from the same exact setup. So yesterday I just waited and I waited. I was live. I know a couple of my members in the community are there with me, and I was just sitting there waiting like a sniper. And then I got what I wanted. I entered. I almost took zero heat in my trade, and because I'm trying to pass this eval or combine in Top Step, my risk was about 4 points. Once I got about 8 to 9 points, I aggressively moved my stop up. I would not have done that in my personal account. I would have kept it at break even and let it hit my target at that time was about 11 or 12 points, I believe. I wasn't sure if we can go to high a day at that point. We did eventually. Would have been a monster trade, but that's why I went aggressively with my stop because I'm close to passing that eval and get funded. So I have to remind myself of that. I probably would have passed the eval already if I just when I got a decent amount of points or whatever in my trade. Got to be thinking I'm not making money. I'm trying to pass. I have to remind myself of that. So you have to treat that a little differently. So anyway, we'll go over that a little bit. All right, but I just want to stress the framework. So if you listen to me now live, you'll hear that a bunch about liquidity, fair value gap, still supply and demand, still my internals. My internals are still my bread and butter. Still my bread and butter. Okay. Now hopefully you guys join me every day. Subscribe, set an alert. Give you the market story, the market news, the economic calendar, the leaders and the laggards, and why the market's doing what it's doing. I give you a bunch of technical analysis, then I give you the long and short trade scenarios, and the Nasdaq and the ES futures. Okay? I break it down. I give you why the market's doing what it's doing. Okay? Now a little about me. Okay, I was in the post production industry, film, video, whatever. I've been worked at post houses. Was basically like the technical operations manager in a bunch of these places. I gave workflows, and basically I was always the guy that wanted to know why this particular workflow or whatever, how it worked, why it worked, blah 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 blah. And I transitioned that into trading, and I just want to know why. Why is this market moving like that? I don't get it. I don't understand. Let me understand. Oh, gamma. Oh, supply and demand. Oh, some of these ICT smart money concepts, right? And then it starts to make sense. And then when you see something over and over and over and over again, pattern recognition or whatever is the name of the game. And that's what I try to bring to you guys here when I talk about the market, right? I'm not some like fake person who's predicting, because that's garbage, right? Because you have these perma bears out there that just continually say we're going to crash 50%, we're going to crash 50%. Well, yeah, eventually they're going to be right, but they're wrong a lot. Why would I? Markets don't work like that. Okay, markets don't work like that. And even though I know 2026, some people are saying that might not be the best year, might not be as big as returns. I don't know. I mean, statistically, we're not supposed to have 4 years with really high returns, but I don't know, right? And whoever out there who's a perma bear, everything we know right now, you have to understand how the markets work, is priced in. So whatever we know right now will not take the market down. It won't. It's going to be something we don't know about. Something comes out of the blue. Remember the tariffs, right? Market was ripping until Trump mentioned these tariffs that could be 50, 100%, whatever. The market ripped lower. The market had to price that in, right? Remember, the futures is a discount mechanism, 6 months out. So if we know about it, the market knows about it, right? So That's why it's very hard to predict downturns in our markets. It's very hard to predict downturns in our markets because they really move a catalyst that we don't see. You need to surprise people. Okay? If there's something that we know about, you better believe the banks and the hedge funds and all that have already hedged for that already. It's not a surprise. Okay? Don't try to outsmart the market. It doesn't work. I've tried it. Doesn't work. Okay? So that's like the big difference, right? I told you that I like to know why everything works. Sometimes that can get me in trouble because then you think you're smarter. I am not smarter, right? But I know on an intraday, I have a really good hold of what the market usually will do, right? But that's only in the next 15, 20 minutes. I don't know what it's going to do in a week from now. I have no clue, right? So there's a very fine line between, like I said to you, I can see these patterns every day, and I could see what pretty much algos do and stuff like that. But then there's some weird stuff, right? So without that spiel, all right, if you want to get more of this kind of stuff, and I talk about the market, right, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading, all right? Now click on my YouTube homepage, click on the link and sign up. What are you waiting for? You'll get exactly this, how I'm talking, every day when the market opens. And once I get some story with my internals, I see some gamma levels, my expected move indicator. Now yesterday, we had a couple of key things. Amazon hit its expected move to the upside. When I say that, that's for Friday. That's expected move for Friday of this week. It already hit it. Amazon, okay, already hit the expected move. That would have been 236.29. Apple hit its expected move to the downside. Coinbase hit its expected move to the upside. Okay. So these are types of things that I like to see because I know in my head, actually GE hit its expected move to the upside as well. So what does that mean for those certain stocks? Well, I know 70% of the time when I run my indicator every Monday morning that it's going to stay within this range. So I know Amazon right now has a limited move to the upside. So I wouldn't really want to long Amazon. I wouldn't want to really long GE. I wouldn't really want to short Apple. I really wouldn't want to go long in Coinbase. Now, when these ranges get broken big time, then that's where the long could be a play or the short could be. But when they hang around those levels, I stay away from them. Okay? So you can get that in my Discord. The weekly expected move. I put it up every Monday morning. Throw it on your chart. Once you throw it on your Thinkorswim, you can see it on your phone. I think it's awesome. I think it's crazy when you see these expected moves because they're priced in by the options market. The options market is great because it's transparent. You can't hide orders like spoofing in time and sales. Okay? It's very transparent. So that's where that's derived from. Right? All right. I think we're ready to get into the watch list after my speech there. Let's get into it. Now we got a VIX that's a little elevated here. It's up 2% out of 15 VIX. 30-year bonds are being bought today, which is sending yields lower. Dow is pretty much flat. Crude's flat. Now crude was down earlier. Crude was down earlier because we're going to get, I think, 50 million barrels of oil, something like that. They have to understand, if we're going to get more oil, right, there's going to be an oversupply. An oversupply means the price should go down. There's too much supply. Okay? This is why oil is kind of like, wow, did oil just literally flat and it went down 0.5% in front of us? I believe it just did. Okay? It was literally just flat a second ago. So something just happened in oil. All right? So my point, that's why we might see oil go down, because now that they have the largest reserves in the world, Venezuela. This makes more supply, right? So price might go lower. I don't know how much lower, okay? And it did. The crude just dropped as I was speaking, okay? So let's go back up here to the dollar. Dollar's flat. I'm still under 100. ES flat. Russell is down 0.07. Nasdaq's down 0.20. So Nasdaq's pulling back a little bit. Bitcoin at minus that down 0.46. Crude down 0.5%. Ethereum down 0.74. Gold down 1%. 10-year yield is down 1%. Remember those 30-year bonds being bought. In silver, I'm glad I trimmed my position. Silver is going to be very volatile. Now that thing, when it was down 4% in the past, that would be out of like $20. That's like nothing. It would always be like, oh, it's down 6% or something. It wouldn't be much. Now, it's down $3.30 because it's at a higher price. So, pretty interesting now that silver's kind of moving more, right? And just to let everybody know, when I started trading, which I didn't know much, I actually traded silver futures, the minis. And let me just tell you something, okay? They moved $500 a point. You heard me right. $500 a point is silver futures. They used to move like a snail back when I started trading. It might have been at $12 or something like that. And it literally, you could watch paint dry and see it move a point, and I'd be like, oh, $500. But I didn't know what I was doing. But that's how much silver right now, if it's volatile, every point is $500. So just to let everybody know that. All right, moving on to the Mag 7 Plus here. All right, Tesla has been getting beaten down a little bit. It's up 0.55. Nvidia is up 0.46. Nvidia had a down day yesterday. Eli Lilly had a nice little day yesterday. All right, Netflix up 0.31. All right, let's look at some laggards here. Meta's down 0.34. Broadcom down 0.38. JP Morgan down 0.54. AMD down 0.82. I don't know why AMD is down right now. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe I know Lisa Su was talking. Hold on, let's see something here. Nope. Maybe we'll get into that later. Why? Let's move on to top sectors. Chevron with the oil, with us getting this oil from Venezuela is good for Chevron. Okay. Remember, I talked about this with my good friend Rosita. Okay. I said to her, crude is not a one-to-one relationship with energy stocks. Just not. Look, Chevron is up 1.28% and crude is down. So they don't move lockstep. Okay. So Uber up 1.12. Now, the big loser today is the mining stock, NEM. That makes sense. Down 3%. Okay. Granular. Let's get into the granular list here. A little more of a magnifying glass here. MicroStrategies. Now, I saw MSCI, I believe, says they do not want to exclude crypto stocks. So now they drove the price back up. MicroStrategy had a bad day yesterday. Now they're up 3.83. That stock's been obliterated. GameStop up 3.63. Valero Energy up 2.65. I believe that's Wayfair up 2.28. All right. Now, laggards. For solar, that's Solar Energy. They're down 4%. I don't know why. All right. A8, I believe that's an aluminum stock. Down 2.69. That probably goes with the metals, kind of. GDXJ, that's the gold junior miners. That's down 2.40. Oklo, nuclear energy. All right. That's what we're looking at there. Makes me cry because I owned GDXJ at $30 at one point. And I got stopped for break even. And it just ripped. That hurts. Okay. Moving on to sectors, which our markets are very hard to not read, but very hard to get a hold, because there's some things that are ripping lower, higher. But yeah, I'll show you the internals. Don't worry about it. I'll show you those internals. Okay. Energy up 0.35. Now look at that. Crude is down, and the energy sector is up. That's what I'm saying. They don't move lockstep together. Okay. Sorry. Okay. I did it again. Hold on. All right. Utilities up 0.19. All right, let's see what laggards are. Financials down 0.04. Okay, the heavyweights here, XLK is down 0.22. Okay, that's your Apple, your Microsoft, your Nvidia. Okay, semis is also down 0.59. So you could say this is a risk off pre-market. Okay, even though I'm watching the futures move up right now. That was a nice pullback the futures had. Okay, and we'll get into why I think it should go straight back up unless something happens. Okay, let's move on to the economic calendar. Okay, we do have some stuff on tap today in the economic calendar. Okay, let's look at that together. Now, what do we have today? We have 30-year mortgage. What did it come out to be? Previous 6.31. And, oh, look, we got two numbers, January's and December's. So, previous 6.32, actual 6.25. So, the January, I guess they're giving it two dates here, went down. Okay, 10-year yield going down today should help that more. Now, ADP employment change. That's probably why it just came out. This is ADP, the private company. Consensus was 47K, actual 41K. The previous was negative 32. Okay. Then we have ISM, services PMI at 10 a.m. Jolts Jobs at 10 a.m. Factory orders at 10 a.m. So, needless to say, I don't want to be around in a trade at 10 a.m. Now, moving on to the juice. What's the juice got for us? Okay. Let's see what ADP employment just changed. Small establishments recovered from November job losses with positive end of the year hiring, even as large employers pulled back. All right, so that's our news there. Now let's see. The White House Press Secretary Leavitt speaks at 11 a.m. So I'll be looking out for that. 2:30, Trump signs executive orders. All right, that's what we have today. Okay, that's what we have today. Now, stock news. Let's see if we get anything here. I have a little review here. I don't see that they're not giving me. I usually give a nice little review here. Let's see Uber stocks. Let's see here. Just trying to see. We'll get into that. We'll move on. Let's go to the stock news here. Let's see here. U.S. banks profits surge on investment banking jump in fourth quarter. Trump's plan to take Venezuelan oil angers China, pushes prices down. Global oil prices fell, and China denounced the U.S. as a bully after President Donald Trump's administration said he had persuaded Venezuela to divert supplies from Beijing and import up to $2 billion worth of embargoed crude. That's why Chevron is up and crude is down. Chevron, Quantum Energy, to bid for Lukoil global assets worth $22 billion. Let's see here. BlueScope Steel rejects $9 billion takeover offer. Lenovo expands AI lineup with NVIDIA tie-up. I don't know how to say that. Cura platform. China's Lenovo, the world's largest personal computer maker, on Tuesday said it has teamed up with U.S. AI chip leader NVIDIA to help AI cloud providers quickly put data centers into operation as it strives to establish itself in AI. All right, let's read this a little before the bell. Futures linked to the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq edged lower as investors took a pause after the S&P 500 and the Dow hit record highs in the previous session. Caution also set ahead of the labor market data due later in the day, including December private payrolls and November's Jolts job report, which could offer fresh insights into the strength of the labor market. European stocks, meanwhile, were subdued after a streak of record highs as traders paused to digest recent U.S.-Venezuela developments and awaited the same economic data. In Asia, this is probably important, right? Because Asia had some nice days in the last couple of days. Okay. In Asia, Japan's Nikkei slipped 1% on profit booking following a rally that pushed the index to a record close in the previous session. Chinese stocks were mixed but hovered near their highest levels in more than a decade. Supported by stronger trading volumes and expectations of corporate earnings growth separately, the dollar held in tight ranges, and we already know about oil. Okay, moving on. I'm not going to mention anything we've already talked about. Let's see why GameStop's up. GameStop, the company, unveiled a potential $3.54 billion compensation package for CEO Ryan Cohen, hinging on a turnaround that requires him to lift the struggling video game retailer's market value more than tenfold and sharply boost profits. Let's see here. Chinese officials are reviewing, and Meta, the company's $2 billion acquisition of artificial intelligence startup Manus. Qualcomm, the company in talks with Samsung Electronics over contract manufacturing of 2-nanometer chips. All right. Let's see, Valero Energy. California Governor Gavin Newsom said that the company would keep importing gasoline into Northern California after its Benicia refinery ceases operation in April. All right, moving on. Let's just look at any upgrades and downgrades today. Let's just see. All right, we have Bank of New York Mellon got an upgrade. First Bancorp, so there's some banks here getting upgrades. Okay, a lot of financial. Look at that, HBT Financial, another thing, all getting upgrades today. Interesting. Lowe's got an upgrade. Regeneron got an upgrade. Sherwin-Williams got an upgrade. XYZ Block. It's interesting now that the Block, that used to not be their ticker symbol, is now like a lot of people use XYZ stock in their examples. It's pretty interesting. Got an upgrade. Downgrades. Let's check that out. There's a lot of downgrades today. ASTS just got a downgrade. Interesting. Sector performed under. That thing has been out of control. It's funny. One of my good friends used to talk to me about that stock when that stock was at like $12. He was like, oh, I don't know, you should watch out, man. Wish I should have bought some. I wish I would have bought some. Bank of America got a downgrade. BBAI got a downgrade. BJ's got a downgrade. Interesting here. Cleveland Cliffs, that's steel, got a downgrade. Let's get out of here. Deckers got a downgrade. D.R. Horton, a home builder, got a downgrade. For solar, there you go. There's the downgrade. Humana Healthcare got a downgrade. JP Morgan got a downgrade. This is interesting. Lennar Home Builder got a downgrade. Man, there's a lot of downgrades today. Let's see here. Union Pacific got a downgrade. U.S. Bancorp got a downgrade. So very interesting today. A lot of downgrades, a lot of upgrades. All right, moving on. Let's get into those market internals. And let me tell you something. I love these things. My God, do I love my internals. My favorite thing by far. Because it doesn't make me look at price action and get fooled and get emotional. It does not let me get emotional with price. Now, these internals, boy, oh boy. Now, the top four, let's call it 6 heavy cap market weighted sectors in our S&P 500. Okay, you got 5 out of 6 were green, and communications was barely down. But look, Infotech almost 1%, financials up 0.65, discretionary up 1.31, healthcare up 1.89, industrials up 1.61. Industrials, I believe, is at all-time highs now. You're not going to go down, folks. Not with that. Okay? Now, in the Valdez, 2.2 to 1, volume going into up stocks versus down stocks in the NYSE exchange. 1.3 to 8 to 1 in the Nasdaq exchange. Okay? That makes sense. Because some of our tech stocks were a little weaker, right? Nothing here is bearish. Look at the internals. Never got weak. So on this pullback here, right? Nothing here showed me, oh, we're weak. Even if we dropped into the previous day's range here, nothing showed me that we were weak. Nothing. While I was live in my room, I said, there is no sign of weakness in this market right now. And I said, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting to get long. Okay? So, I can show you that long in a sec here. Okay? That's the market internals. Pretty much just really bullish. Regardless of Apple, weakness, and Nvidia. The market was it was going to push higher. It was just a matter of time. And you can see in here, let me show you my SPY in QQQ. Okay, this is monthly, last month's highs. We broke that, right? We broke last week's highs, the orange in SPY. QQQ broke last week's highs, right? We broke a major resistance level at about the 689s in SPY as well. Okay, so yeah, I think we're just headed higher right now. Okay, I think we're just headed higher. Okay, let's go to the daily charts. All right. All right. So, made all-time highs yesterday. All right. Now, our expected move to the upside is 695.37. So we're coming close. The green right there. Right there. We're coming close. So that is in my mind. Okay. It's only Wednesday. So we'll see. So nice move. You broke last week's highs. Right there, the orange. Went to last month's highs. Made all-time highs. Okay. Where are we now? 692. 24. We're right up at the highs. Okay. That's just bullish. That's all you can really say about it. There's no overhead supply. There's no resistance. Now, in futures, there is. In futures, there is. So let's look at futures. We'll go over the expectations for today. All right. Did not make all-time highs yet in futures. All-time highs is 7,014. That happened back in October 30th. Okay. Now, I would think we tag it. Okay. Look at what we're doing. Now, expectation for today. Okay. Expectation is we're going to go higher. I see now you have that 7,000. Now 7,000 is a psychological number. Did we hit that yet? Not yet. But I think definitely we can push higher. That's last week's highs. That's last month's highs in futures. Okay, so my expectation would be to go higher. I guess you get my daily bias would be higher. Okay. And if you look to the left, if you take out these highs, you're going to push up. And now, personally, in my portfolio, and this is just for me, I was telling my community as well that I have a lot of positions that are up pretty nicely. And if we have a nice run, I'm probably going to trim a lot of those positions, take some profits, right? Generate some capital, and then see what the future brings us. Because I have really good entries, and if we get a nice another run up here, I'm going to start to trim. Okay, that's just me. All right. Any kind of downturn that I see, maybe over 20% or whatever, I'll probably add back. Right. Now, let's go to QQQ. What do we have here? QQQ is still in that wedge, right? Still in that wedge. So this is compressing. Bigger moves come out of these wedges than just a straight ass horizontal channel. Okay, so this broke this resistance yesterday. Okay, now you have a previous weekly high right there on 625.46. The weekly expected high is 629.53. Look where that expected high is at last month's highs and two previous weekly highs. So that is a lot of confluence there. I don't know if we get there this week, but if we break this wedge, we could get there. All right, we could get there. I don't know what's going to happen. Right, where are we now? 623.06. 623.06 brings us. We're on the upper third of yesterday's range. Now we did pull back, and I feel like this pullback, if this was during the day, I already would have been long, and I think we're heading towards the overnight highs. Okay, that would be my expectation. Let's look at futures. Futures, Nasdaq futures has a lot to work to do to get to all-time highs. A lot. It's relatively weak. You can see it's definitely relatively weaker, right? This is last week's highs. We're not there yet. Okay. You can see this swing high right here is another weekly level. That's your 25933s. We broke finally the 25830s. Let me see that level here. That's the level that I was saying that the market wanted yesterday. Okay, we did hit that yesterday. All right. Now, my expectation would be for us to go higher today. All right, unless something happens. All right, let's look at that breath. Let's have that market open up its mouth and let's smell that breath. All right, what did we do with breath yesterday? It improved. Okay, 65% of our stocks in the S&P 500 are over their 50-day simple moving average on the daily chart. Breath is improving. Overall market breath is improving. That makes sense. My internals, right? That makes sense. That's a strong sign from the market. See, like I'm letting that tell me what the market breadth is doing, right? What does it matter what I think the market will do? Doesn't matter. 65% of stocks are now. If we get into the territory where we're up in the 75%, 80% of stocks or whatever, well, guess what that means? We're probably due for a correction because that's frothy. Anytime you get up into the 90s and the 80s, the market takes a downturn. Okay? So, there you go. There's the breath. Smelling better. All right? Smelling better. All right. Moving on. Hourlies. Let's do it. Let's get into the hourlies here. And it's doing exactly what I thought it would be doing right now. Okay? Let's go to the hourly charts now. Like I said, I use some liquidity levels. A little difference here in fair value gaps. Fair value gaps are represented by the yellow box for bull. They're like a purple box for the bearish fair value gaps. Okay. And like I said, I still owe you my trade recap real quick. And I'll do it real quick. All right. So let's look at our charts together. Okay. This is the ES. Now, very key here. The ES is most traded price. Okay. Now, yesterday, did it change? No, it didn't. Perfect. So I still use my levels. Okay. We're at ultimate balance now. Around 65, 69.53 is your most traded price of the month and the week. And I want to show you what the market did here. Right here is where we pulled back. Where did we pull back? Ultimate balance. Okay. We held it. We also pulled back to a 1 hour bullish fair value gap. That's that yellow box. This is where I was all about getting long yesterday in the ES. Okay. Now, we hit a supply zone in the ES. Okay. We hit a supply zone right up in here. This is last month's highs in futures. Okay. Now, what do we produce in the overnights? Well, there's a 4 hour fair value gap to the bullish fair value gap. There's a 1 hour bullish fair value gap here. So I just want to see how the market handles these bullish fair value gaps. Right now, it's bullish. It's holding them. Okay? We are into like a 6 hour supply zone right here. My expectation for today is we hit the overnight highs. These equal highs here. That's that liquidity level right there. That's your buy side liquidity. We are in supply right now, so I don't know if we hit it right now. My expectation would be we're going to hit that. The next liquidity level is last month's highs, 6994s. All right, you do have a swing low down here. This is your overnight lows. That's your next liquidity level to the downside, your sell side liquidity. Okay. Remember, we're back into an uptrend. All right. We broke the downtrend. Let's get a little path tool here, and we can just go by the swing lows, right? To a swing high, to a swing low, to a swing high, to a swing low, to a swing high, right? And now there's our swing low, and that's where the market is now. Okay, so when you take that off, which I like to see because you can clearly see what we're doing, right? We're in an uptrend. Higher lows, higher highs, right? And look what we're doing, right? So we broke a downtrend. Now we're in an uptrend, all right? So to violate this a little bit, you need to break this swing low. And even though, you break this swing low, you would still have this higher low here, right? So I would think anything below the ultimate balance level, 6953, would change my mind. But we have to see. Okay? My expectation is we hit this liquidity level. Okay? Now from the past, let's see, there's really not much there. Yep, there's not much there. All right. So that's what I'm looking at as far as ES. Okay? My expectation is we do hit this. This is a supply zone though. Okay? Let's go to your Nasdaq futures. Okay, remember it's not as strong. Okay, and it's different. Okay. Now the 257s, this was ultimate balance. This was your most traded price of the month. I said we needed to go get over that and establish acceptance over this price. We did that yesterday. It gave you a little scare here, right there. Came right back through it, right? Pushed back over it, and where did it go to? This main 6 hour, 8 hour, 12 hour supply zone. That's a thicker border here, right? Sold off from that supply. Now there's a bullish fair value gap here that it landed into, and it's catching support. This is the most traded price of yesterday. My expectation would be we tap the overnight highs. That's the buy side liquidity there. Okay, that's the overnight highs. So that level, to be exact, would be your 25844s. All right, that's what I like to do business at. Now there is a little swing high. It's not that important right there. Okay, but you really wanted me, I'm going to do business in here. Hold 257, right? Now, if the market turns out that it comes up here and let's say it wicks here and you start to push down, maybe you can scalp a short somewhere in there. Okay, I don't know, right? But I want to follow the trend. We are now broke the downtrend as well in the NASDAQ, so trend is your friend. So now this little price here is the most traded price over the last 2 months. So watch this price. Also last week's highs. So like I said, I think we have another liquidity level up here. Level, what am I, Bugs Bunny? 25935. All right. So that's what we're looking at in your NASDAQ. Let's move on to the market profile and the volume profile. Okay. And we're going to start with some scenarios here. All right. We have a beautiful confluence high here, which is part of my liquidity levels. All right. So this is your market profile and volume profile. This is where I get my scenarios. All right. And right off the bat, okay, you have a very bullish imbalance to this weekly composite profile. It's begging to get broken. Begging. Okay. Now this is important level 2, 69.88. That is your most traded price of the rolling week in the 24-hour session. So right there you can see that's yesterday's most traded price. It's very bullish. All right. You know longs are there. Okay. A lot of volume transpiring here. All right. A lot of volume. Now you have a confluence high at 6991s. Believe that will get broken. It might even get broken while we're talking or while I'm talking. We're in supply. We are in supply. Okay. So we know we got the bullish fair value gaps below us, these yellow boxes, right? So all pullbacks are viable down here. All right, so what are we going to do? This is our confluence high, this little box. We're at last week's high, a little above last week's highs. I believe that gets taken. Okay. Now, taken meaning it just gets broken. I don't know how high it goes. Okay. Now, the next move you want is anything really below this overnight lows in this area. That's your bullish fair value gaps in here. Okay. Now, your ultimate balance level is 69.53. That also has the 1 hour bullish fair value gap that was honored yesterday. All right. You have a demand zone in here as well. I think pullbacks still viable here. Okay. They're still viable here. I don't know what happens today. All right. I really don't. Now, remember, 7,000 is a psychological level. This is all-time highs right here. So we'll just have to see what happens, okay? And let me open up this session from the overnight. All right, and we'll start doing our scenarios here. We're going to start over the bullish side because I am bullish bias, okay? Now, we are in supply. This is like a 6-hour supply zone, so I expect a little resistance here. All right, but this is begging to be broke. All right, so what I would love is either if it just wicked here and pulled back or just pulled back. This is going to cause some selling from profit taking, right? But I know that the overnight lows is here. I know that this 69.60 is yesterday's 50% Fibonacci of yesterday's range, the midpoint, and I have a bullish for value gap here. So any kind of support in here, I want to go long to tap this 69.91, that confluence high. Okay. Then I think you could probably target the psychological level of 7,000, then go for all-time highs. Okay. In the SPY, there's no resistance. In futures, you still have the supply zone. Okay. This would be optimal. Now, if we did get a real quick flush into here, this could be a bear trap, and you hold it. I don't think you go all the way up. You might just hang out in here. But that's my long thesis, short thesis. Okay, I am not buy short. Okay, but I do know we're at a pretty good liquidity level. I do know longs are getting very crowded here. Okay, so a scalp mentality would be, all right, let's say we push here, we wick, right? We don't displace, we don't find acceptance here. We come back through this 688 level. I think, and you retest this, I definitely think you can hit overnight lows. And I don't know what you do from here. That could be a good scalp. Maybe you can go down to ultimate balance. Okay. Now, if the market turns and you break ultimate balance, that is not good. That could really fall. I'm not counting on that. I'm just saying it. I think there's something here, right? Now, if this market's moving into all-time high territory, yeah, you can short it, but that's not the better play, right? You want to be more long today unless something changes in the market. All right, moving on to NASDAQ. Let's look at that NASDAQ together. Remember, the NASDAQ has a lot more work to do than the ES, but you also have now confluence high as well. Okay, confluence high as well. Now, market came into supply. Market came into supply right here and found some selling, right? That's not a surprise. Maybe remember, this thicker border means it's a 6, 8, 12-hour supply zone. That's how I chart. Okay, price is here at the midpoint of the overnight. At the midpoint of the overnight. Okay. Now, what do we have here? We have a poor low right here. All right, that's an equal low. That's probably a magnet. And you have a bullish fair value gap right here, this yellow box. And you have the most traded price of the month, 257s. That's a pullback you want to buy if this market stays. And remember, right now XLK and SMH, the semiconductor ETF, are negative for pre-market. But however, you've seen that a lot of times, and then next thing you know, the dips are bought. So I don't know. All right, but what I do know is you want to concentrate here. All right, you got yesterday's close up there. It wants the overnight highs. I believe this market taps those overnight highs. Okay, now what do you have here? Right here, this big area. You have the bullish fair value gap, most traded price of the month, overnight lows, those equal lows. I believe this is a bear trap right here. Okay, that's a bear trap. Now, we have yesterday's lows down here. That is a place you do not want to see. Back under 257, it's not good. Let's break the session out. Let's get into scenarios here. Okay. And then I forgot to show you. I'll just show you my trade yesterday and why I took it. All right, so let's just get right into scenarios for the NASDAQ. Okay. Let's do bull side. Okay, so, right, we already came down, made these equal lows, right? The poor low. So, I'm not very interested in just longing here, even though I think it's going for the 25844s at overnight highs. I want a better discount. So, I'm hoping we take out that equal low and we hold the 257s and this bullish fair value gap. It holds, it doesn't close below it, and then you get some higher lows. That's the trade. Now you target 25844s. You target last week's highs, 25893s. And there's a bunch of overhead supply here. Oh, I don't know what happens here, but that's a nice move. Okay, that's a nice move. Now, if we start to move up into this, break it, I'm not really interested in a long. We are in supply. We are at last week's high. I'm not interested, right? I want to get the most bang for my buck here. I don't want to buy up in here, right? I want an asymmetric risk to reward. I don't, and I want it. I want a lot of room ahead of me to get to see my trade move in my favor. Now, a little bear trap could be you push down into this bullish fair value gap at the most traded price of the week. This could be a bear trap. It has to be quick and retake 257s with a higher low. Now, you just got the liquidity to go up higher. Okay, now shorts. All right, shorts. Now, if we push down, okay, into here, a couple things. If we take out 257s and we take out the 256s, okay, or the 25660s, and we hold and start to hold down here, we're probably going to hit yesterday's lows. Okay, if we take this out, 256, that's the most traded price of the week in this 24-hour session, we could roll. Okay, I don't know if that's in the cards. 257 is not going to be easy to taken out. Okay, now remember, I'm a bull buy. I'm bullish bias. Okay, now in another short, if we do come up here and let's say we take this out, this is a naked VPOC here from a past. See this little volume, high volume node? If we boom, take that, don't find acceptance, make a lower high, this could be the trade, right down to 257. And then bonus would be you want to hold the runner to go lower. Again, I don't think for me that a short is a high probability trade from my style. Not today. Okay, not today. Who knows? I don't know. All right, now give me 1 second. I'm going to give you my just my trade yesterday. Okay, I'll share it with you. So give me 1 second while I change my workspace. Give me a second. Whoever's with me, not sure who is with me. Oh, wait a minute. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm going to pull up my futures chart here and show you what I saw yesterday. Okay, I'm going to show exactly what I saw yesterday in a 1 minute chart. That's what I focus on. Okay, so let's put that up here. There it is. Okay, so perfect. Internals were bullish, right? Now, this is what happened. Okay, we came down right to the most traded price of the month. That's this big box, right? Right here. And then what did we do? We accumulate it. Okay. So in ICT, they call it the power of 3. They call it AMD. So right here, we were accumulating. I know for me, that's a red flag to not trade until I see what? Manipulation. You swept these lows right there. Okay, that's your manipulation. Right there. Now, since I'm bullish, since this went right into this hourly, this yellow box is the bullish fair value gap, the 1 hour confluence there. confluence with the internals being bullish, confluence with the most traded price of the month holding right here, confluence with this liquidity rate right here, the manipulation, right? So it's all playing out what I want to do. Now, what do I want? I want a break of structure. Right there's a swing high. You get displacement, creates a fair value gap right here. So it's not a full market structure shift because you need to take out this high. But I'm bullish and I have enough confluence. This is what I've been noticing lately. Okay, so what did I wait for? See how we came into VWAP? I was like, if we come into VWAP and pull back to this fair value gap, and what it did, it dropped right down here, and you can see I posted my entry. I entered right there. Stop loss here. And because this is the distribution leg, look what we did. We pushed right up. And I had my original target, I believe, up here. Let's swing high up here. And I trailed it aggressively because I think I got out. Let's see, I got in at 58. I got out at 68 and change, I believe, up here. I aggressively, and this stopped me out, but then it went to my target. It would have went to my target, right? It would have went to the high day. But that's why I entered. So it's kind of crazy that this is my entry after this big red candle right there because it is fair value gap. And then boom, 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 boom. Okay? So, like I said, I would have held to my target. I still got more than a 2-to-1 risk to reward. All right? So, that's on a 1 minute. That's my trigger chart now, is 1 minute. It's not much noise for me because I'm more looking for what I want to see. Okay? You can see clearly from this AMD, this could be your manipulation. This is the manipulation right there. Okay? And you just ripped. You distribute it. Right? So, that's my trade. All right? Just wanted to share that with you guys. Hey, of course, if you have any questions, just let me know. Okay? Just let me know. Hopefully, you enjoyed that analysis. Please give me a thumbs up or a like if you did. Okay? Now, hopefully you guys join me every morning. I give you the latest news, the market story, the economic calendar, latest and laggards, and why the market's doing what it's doing. Why the market's doing what it's doing. Okay? Now, I should be live today. Okay? You want more in-depth coverage of what the market's doing minute by minute, you're going to join my Discord, Confluence Trading. Go to the YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Okay? Please come in, ask questions. Okay? Ask questions. And I hope to see you in there. Now, I hope everybody has a great day. Remember, no trade is a trade. Okay? And one thing I have to say is mental capital is capital. Mental capital is capital. Make sure your mind is free. Right? Yesterday, I just waited and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited. And you get the little FOMOs in your brain like, oh, I know this is going to go higher. I know it is. But then it gave me my shot. And then I just said, I got to get in. I've seen this too many times. And then it pays off, right? And then I have one trade. Done. Right? So, and that's not easy. I'm not claiming it's easy. All right? Because if I got in a couple of losing trades prior to that, I probably would be harder for me to pull the trigger. Or, like, I might just want to, I just might want to book profits as soon as I see it. Right? So, just want to share that with you. So remember, no trade's a trade. That's always a position. Okay? You don't have to trade on every tick. I used to look at the market like every opportunity was an opportunity. Every tick was an opportunity. Everything, a big green was, oh my God, I didn't get in that. Oh, or every big red, oh my God, I didn't sell that. That was bad mentality to be in. bad. Every day that the market moved up high, I looked at it like, man, I missed that. And that's not you. You have to shake that and shed that. And I used to be me. I shedded that. I was telling one of my friends yesterday. I now look at like, well, why would I long there now? It's almost like I'm like, ugh, why would I long now? The move happened already. Not that I missed it. That's the mentality shift that you got to be in to stay in the game. Because, like, not everything is an opportunity. It just doesn't make sense. It's almost like if you're in a baseball and you're up at bat, right? Why would you swing at every pitch? No, right? You wait for that pitch to come into your sweet spot. Take a ball. You know what I mean? So, like, that's what I'm saying. And I'm saying to this day, it's not the easiest thing in the world, what I'm saying. But what does that do? It does free up your mental capital. So that's my little lesson for today. Everybody have a great day, and I'll see you guys in my room or tomorrow morning.